What is up, guys? Welcome back to CrimsonCX and welcome back to the OpenTTD Season 4 finale. Yes, we've got to that point now, and yeah, it's been a busy season. As you can see, constant messages about trains which need fixing, but today we're going to go through basically all we've done on this world and then start to think about what's coming next for Season 5. But let's get started. So we're going to start here. We're not going to do chronological because that'd be quite confusing. But we're starting off in the oil area. Obviously quite a big station at Wendhattan Docks. Probably one of the biggest stations I've ever done. Like, it's about 8 tracks near the big city of Wendhattan. And yeah, it just goes all over the place. You can see one goes to here, which is quite close. One up here. And then there's another here. And then all the way. And I mean all the way over here. So that has been fun to make. I don't think I've done anything on that sort of industrial scale before, which is interesting. It's obviously getting fed off of a lot of these oil fields, which you can see in this big sort of ocean lake thing. It's looking good. But let's move on to Wendhattan itself, which is the beginning of our sort of look at our passenger lines. So this is an electric train line. It got electrified, if I remember correctly. It wasn't initially electric. And it hasn't been replaced by a monorail like a lot of these little branch lines have. But as you can see, it starts in Wendhattan Central, right in the middle of the city. Got some buses moving about as well, right next to the sort of river. And it goes along here to this new bustling area, Wendhattan East, which is the other side of the river. And then we head along. This station didn't exist, by the way. It used to just sort of go like this way. If you follow the cursor, you used to skip this, and we altered it slightly. Then we get to Sarningston. There used to be a station here, but we moved it just to make things a little easier and the route a bit better. And also there's a depot. And we move up here. This is quite a long branch line, by the way, in case you couldn't tell. We then got Rudhattan and then Lontbourne before we head to Slenfingley Market. Now this is where the branch line used to finish, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it did. And there's also, as you can see, a monorail platform which isn't connected to anything, but we'll get to that in a minute, because you remember a couple episodes ago, the monorail used to come up here, but when we built Larningston Plumtown Airport, we moved the monorail here, Larningston Plumtown, and extended the branch line in. So that's what we sort of did. I haven't been able to fix this yet, and it isn't really high priority, so we're going to move on. Let's start next with the monorail, which used to be one of the earliest branch lines, if I remember correctly. So it goes, well, it used to go to Slenfingley Market, but now it goes to the airport before going to Larningston, and then coming down to Plumtown Woods, which is this major station. It stretches all the way over here. It's got a bunch of mainline and a bunch of monorail, and also maglev as well. Where do we go from here? I sort of think that we should continue on the monorail section. So one monorail line goes up to Plumtown West, Hunningley, and then this sort of lesser used area, Fort Monberg, and then yeah, this place, Windham. I forgot this even existed. We'll head back. And as you can see, this sort of line goes along and then down. It's part of this relief route for the main line, which we'll get to. But another route from Plumtown Woods, which is a monorail, is from Plumtown Woods to Prawningpool Central, which has another monorail, which we'll get to in a minute. But there's also one final monorail line which goes to Sonningpool, which ends there. Moving on from Prawningpool Central, this line goes Bunston and then Dunfingley Market before heading down towards Truewood, Tenway-on-Sea and Chanford Interchange, which you're going to get to. We can loop back to Plumtown quite easily because we can follow one of the 2 maglev lines, which goes very quickly through here, up back towards Plumtown, for a tunnel, past some of the little monorail stations back to So there you go. We will touch on this industry This is an early doors one. Soningpool North, this is sort of to do with livestock and grain, I think, because I had 2 lines, one serving each, and they head up here. Yes, this thing here produces grain and livestock, which transports down there. Perfect. That's what I meant anyway. So the main line, which we were just talking about, this is the main line sort of relief, which sort of serves some new areas of Plumtown instead of Plumtown Woods. It loops round down here. There's a little stop for local trains at Soningpool, which some trains use, before we head up to Proningpool Woods here, and then Ninston Woods, which is here, before it launches in, it heads into the regular main line, which you're going to get to in a second. So, should we head back to Menninghall, which actually we haven't covered before, so you wouldn't know where Menninghall is. So it's the first station after Plumtown. You got some waypoints, and one of the lines goes to Menninghall, which I'm sure you're aware of by now. And the Menninghall line then goes up to Trenston, and then Fort Brumbourne Cross, and there's also a second line which goes to Fondinghall. So that's that bit sorted. We don't need to worry about that anymore. However, if you didn't go to Menninghall on the main line, you would have got to Ninston instead. Ninston is one of the biggest cities on the map. I think it's maybe second or third if we sort by, not name, sort by population. Ninston is third, Plumtown first, and Chanford, and then Ninston, Menninghall. So you can tell the ones which I've definitely put a lot of time into. They've grown very significantly. These are sort of the OG ones. But yeah, you go to Ninston, and then you go all the way along this big main line. The relief line sort of merges in, and you go along here. So you first get to another local station, Tutborough, and then to Hatton as well, which is also a junction, but we'll get to that in a minute. So there's a lot of ways you can go from here. We're going to head towards Chanford, which we've mentioned before. So this is Chanford, the second biggest place. I don't know why I hesitated there. Sort of merge into some of these other places, sort of Catston, Fannington, and this, for instance, this is like urban sprawl. This used to just be fields. It's even connecting over towards here and here. But yeah, we'll get to that. So Chanford was a station I made very early on with the original main line, and I haven't really been able to expand it since, so I had to go for a new station at Chanford Woods, as well as a new sort of route which goes along here, past Fondingworth, and then goes to where we were just a couple minutes ago, at Chanford Interchange, near Tenway-on-Sea, the sort of maglev monorail which we talked about a minute ago. So, that's Chanford. You can see a plane. We haven't talked too much about the planes, we'll get to that another time. As you can see, there's buses in Chanford, which has helped to grow it, as well as Fannington and Pewworth. And Pewworth has a station, goes from Pewworth Central back to Hatton, and then another line up to Wrenhill. And there's also Wrenhill Industry Line, which is a coal route which goes from the power station all the way through to Dunfingley Market Mines. As for the Tutborough, I think this is to do with wood. Yeah, wood. That's from up here near Sluddington Woods. This is also another industry, by the way, and if I remember. Yeah, I think it is. It's a long one though, jeez. I forgot about this. This is when I realised it's this thing up here. I think 2 farms, yeah, grain, livestock. I think it's grain this time. Yeah, grain. And it goes along here, very long route, down to... going still. You can see it on its way. Goes all the way down to here. As the plane once again goes past us, but we'll get to the plane, So, this is a very convoluted way to do it, as I admitted, but we're back here. So we've done Chanford Interchange, Plumtown, all that up here. We now move this way, and there's Huntingworth City, which is the end of one branch of the main line, And then we get another local line. I think this is one of the only unelectrified lines left, and it goes from this place, which you just admitted, sort of Sintberg, Huntingworth City, to Madworth, and then in Reading heads a junction with a spare to Brinston and Slenston, and then it links down to another sort of mainline interchange at Rennington, which also includes the maglev train over to where the other side, which is where we've put the fastest train you can get in the game. We'll get to this part of the island in a minute when we get to the boats. So, with that in mind, now this is another stretch of the main line. This part of the main line goes down and around and goes to Munningpool, which is, if I remember correctly from just a couple of minutes ago, the fourth biggest settlement. So Munningpool has something, as well as Pradhatton, served by a bunch of monorail in this area. You can see sort of around Buddingston Bay and Munningpool, Pradhatton Airport, Leadinghead Cross, all that. You can see how the main line again sort of splits in two, like how it did around Ninston. It then eventually merges up around here. There's also a lot of urban sprawl around here and a bunch of train lines, plus the monorail which goes towards Lundham, and then Fondingworth going back towards Chanford, which we've covered before. And then all these lines sort of merge up and around, and there's this little spur which I talked about last episode, which stops at Little Sintown and then goes back up towards Huntingworth City. Now, that seems to me to be most of what we need to do and talk about. Let's zoom out. It might be a bit laggy, in fact it is a bit laggy, but I think I'm losing frames like crazy. I think that's most of the stuff. Obviously there'll be little things like the buses, which I've talked about a little less, but that's most of the things. We'll now zoom back in and talk about part of the other island and some of the further away bits which we haven't talked about as much. So from Buddingston Bay, which we were just at, there's a dock, and the first boat which I think I've ever used before, which goes to Brintbourne Bridge, which itself has grown quite a lot. It's got a dock and then 2 stations on either side, plus some buses. One line goes to Plundinghatton, which is starting to grow as well, as you can see, and the other side is a line which I built very recently in the last episode too, or between episodes I think. This would have been between episodes, because I did this last episode. Even I can't remember my own schedule. But yeah, there's a line which goes to some of the local places around Little Truetown, which is served by the fast maglev up to Rennington. But I've sort of served with a couple trains, Shordston, Tradingworth, connected it by road, by the way. And yeah, things are looking pretty good. And I think that is everything apart from the elephant in the room, which is up here there is an airport and actually some trains which I forgot about. Sort of little monorail line which links to some of the little settlements, or quite big settlements, and links it to the airport at Kenway, which goes back to sort of Munningpool and all that. And yeah, that is most of routes. Now I'm well aware that there could have probably been a much easier way of doing that, which was less of a ramble for ages. But if you've got better suggestions for what I should do in season 5 when I'm having to tackle talking about 20 episodes of progress, let me know. Now, elephant in the room is season 5. Info on that. Now, I am still in very early stages of thinking about that, but yeah, I think that might be the end of season 4 of OpenTTD. I'd like to say thank you all for your support on this series, whether you've watched one episode or all 22. Either way, it still means an awful ton to me. If you have enjoyed it, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I don't know, get the hype ready for season 5 whenever that arrives. But yeah, I've been CrimsonCX, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.